This is Boxes and Briefs, a podcast with real-life business stories. But we will be asking the hard questions and challenging traditions. So broaden your thinking with fresh perspectives and solve problems for business success.
In this episode, we are flicking the switch. I am not Lisa Garrud. My name is John Maybury. But today I am asking the questions of Lisa. I'm John.
I'm Lucy.
And we have today Lisa Garrud in the hot seat. Welcome along.
Thank you.
Exclusive.
Unreal being on this side of the table. I've got two people looking at me. It's strange.
Lisa is a content marketing expert from MasterJack,
Yes.
an Auckland-based agency that helps businesses create and distribute valuable, relevant content to attract and retain audiences.
Yes. Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
your number one question of 6, your time starts... No,
Oh, you're making me nervous now.
tell us
No.
the MasterJack story. Tell us the Lisa Garrud story. Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, I guess it's been a journey. It was, I had my own business, was in marketing as a generalist, did everything you can think of to do with marketing. I had that for 11 years. Some big bad things happened in my story, and I did not have the energy to keep going. So I sold it, and Gilligan Sheppard bought my business, which was strange for an accounting firm to buy a marketing business. I started providing marketing services to their clients, and their clients went, "This is weird. You're an accounting firm trying to sell me marketing." So we pivoted, we called it MasterJack. We were still a generalist marketing agency, but you find that you're in competition with a lot of other marketers. So we decided to niche down into content. It was what we were good at. It got the most reward for both our clients and our little feel-good factor. So we focused on content, and that's what we do now.
So originally the MasterJack was the master of none.
Yeah, it was a jack of all trades is better than a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. And we now relate that to the fact that we can write content for any business, any trade, corporate, trade, retail, product, service, we can write. That's why we're MasterJack.
But nowadays, when comparable to when MasterJack started, is we have this thing called ChatGPT.
Yes.
And well, I know the answer, but that's often going to be a challenge that you'll get from clients saying, "Oh, but I can write my own content by using ChatGPT." What do you say? What do you say to that?
They can. Absolutely they can. It's a tool for writing content. Duh. I think in the marketing world, we've been on this journey. It was, Xero came in and accountants was going to die because of Xero. It didn't happen, right? People who got better with the tool became the better accountant. And it's the same with writing content. If you use the tool, you'll get better at writing content. So then the first message was, don't be scared. AI is not going to take your job. It's a tool. Then the second message that I got through this AI journey was, well, AI is not going to steal your job, but somebody who knows how to use it might steal your job. Now it's, if everybody uses AI, they're all going to sound the same. So MasterJack, we've got a way of making the AI talk in your unique brand voice.
How do you do that?
Oh, it's very clever. It's basically the information that you put into the tool to get better, what you get out.
You're only as good as the prompt that you put in. The answer's only as good as the prompt, right?
Yes. So if you teach the AI, whether it's ChatGPT or any other AI, you have to tell it what's your business purpose, your mission, your values, what's your brand archetype, what are your customers look like, what are their pain points, and what are the services that you provide that answer those pain points.
All in one question, one prompt question.
Looks like a page.
Wow.
You can also copy and paste stuff from your website into a Word document and upload that as an attachment. Any presentations you've done, anything that will feed it what your brand is all about.
Wow.
And then you can give it all kinds of prompts. You can say, please write my social media for a year. Please write articles for my newsletter. Please write content for my website pages. If you give it the right prompts, it'll give you what you want.
And the challenge with a lot of businesses is they don't know what those things are to feed it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes,
right?
Some
they
do,
don't
some
know
don't.
You talk about brand personas, and that's
Yes.
something, I've done some work with MasterJack.
Yes.
And I was amazed in a turnaround of a week. Here are your brand personas based on the interview that we had. Here are the details of your audience and the breakdown. It's like, you don't get that from ChatGPT.
No.
You get that from your insights
Yes.
into understanding customers, understanding audiences, right?
Yes.
But that's your secret sauce.
I'm happy for it not to be a secret. I'm happy to try and duplicate my brain in my team members and contractors that we use. I'm happy to do that. I'm in the middle of writing something at the moment, which will probably be released before this podcast, but it's teaching people how to do it themselves if they want to, because I've learnt that the more you give it away, the more will come back.
Where'd you learn that?
Well, I'll say the first time I learned it has got to be all the churchy stuff.
All the what?
Church.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Second time I learned it was through networking with a franchise called BNI,
Never
Business
heard of them,
Networking
yeah,
International. And it's the same thing. Their number one value is givers gain, which you give it away, it comes back no matter what. It's like a law.
So people can use ChatGPT to write all their stuff. I think someone asked me today, and she wants to do like a video script, and I said, yeah, well, so can I just use ChatGPT? Well, yes, you can. But you might find that ChatGPT is going to proffer up, even from this very simple prompt, they might proffer up a line or two, and they say, oh, actually, that's a really good idea. I'm going to make that core thought the headline or the hook, and then I'm gonna go off in a different direction. How do you come up with ideas on what to write for clients?
I mean, we use pillar cluster strategies.
Whoa.
Yes, it's a marketing term. I'm happy to explain.
Pillar cluster what?
Strategies.
Yes,
you can Google it and then it will help you make your own one. Essentially, a pillar is a theme. So one of your themes, John, might be speaking with confidence. Another one might be what to talk about. Another one might speak to the stories that you get to hear through the different clients that you have. So those would be your pillars. And then the clusters are all of the topics that can come under that pillar.
Gotcha.
And so if you start with that, I think that those can often last a year, maybe even 2, before you're ready to try some new pillars. So there's always something to write. But just like you said in your podcast episode about speaking, you've got to look at what the customer wants to hear. What's valuable to them? What problem are you solving for them? Get the value. That's what you've got to talk and write about.
Would you recommend, and only because I'm referencing our podcast where I was sitting over there, was how much personal content do you dive into with clients?
I think it's mostly about their why, for the same reason you stated, to create the connection, because actually it's something I come across in networking all the time. You got us to do this networking activity once where we would say to the person, what's your point of difference?
Okay.
And time again, when I interview businesses for content, I will hear something that their competitor will also say. Something like, oh, well, we put our clients first. I'm like, that's not a point of difference. Everybody does that. They're a tyre shop. Well, we put the right tyres on your car. I'm like, of course you do. What is your point of difference? Insurance person, what is your point of difference? Oh, well, we want to make sure that you've got the right insurance. Every insurance person is doing that.
Yeah.
So I push deeper and I say, but why do you do what you do? Yeah. And that always gets to the goal. So there was an insurance person in that particular activity you got us to do.
Yeah.
And I suddenly heard a story about how her mum didn't have insurance and the family had to rally around and fundraise and try and do things to raise money to help her with her health issues. And that's now why she does what she does, because she never wants somebody to be in the same position. So suddenly we've told that story and a bunch of people have gone, oh my gosh, that is such a good reason. Can you come and talk to me? So it's the same with content. You find the gold in the follow-up question. And your point of difference is not always your point of difference. So once you can actually start being authentically you and why you do what you do, so much more content comes to light.
Nice. So the personal, when it's relevant, makes a big difference. Yeah.
Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Sheppard, the problem solvers in business. Lisa,
Yes.
How often should businesses share their content and where?
Right.
I know there's lots of questions in there. How often do they share and where should they share?
So how often? I do have a little formula. Essentially, how often does that person buy from you? So if you're a real estate agent, if somebody's looking to purchase property, they're going to want to hear from you pretty regularly, maybe weekly, up until they purchase. If they've already purchased from you, they're settled, they're in their house, maybe you just want to keep up some brand awareness, so maybe you'd only contact them, say, quarterly to remind them that you're still around. You can turn that into seasonal, summer, winter, autumn, spring, tips around the house, give them some value, that kind of thing. If you're selling clothing, you might buy clothing, every couple of months? Is that how often you buy?
Oh, well, lately I've been doing the little retail therapy thing and buying the odd thing, but yeah, men, every couple of months probably, right?
So maybe a monthly newsletter, what's hot.
But you also can write for social media.
Yes.
How often should you post? Can we dive in? Because that's a question that a lot of business owners in terms of content marketing, they're thinking, sure, newsletters and articles and those sorts of things and website landing pages, obviously what you do.
Yes.
But from a social media content perspective, how often should I post on LinkedIn?
It's going to come down for a business owner, or come down to how much time they've got, whether they can employ somebody else to do it, that kind of thing. We do base our formula around the newsletter. So how often can your client database stand receiving a newsletter before they'll hit that unsubscribe button and suddenly you don't have them anymore? So if that newsletter is monthly, then we would recommend that you post at least once a week on your socials. So it kind of works out. If you're only going to send a newsletter once a quarter, you might only want to post once or twice a month. Not as much.
Wow.
If you're sending...
I had a guy reach out to me that I had known on LinkedIn 4 years ago, and he's now in the UK, and he sends me this random message saying, I'm helping people. How often should I post on LinkedIn? And I said, well, it depends. It depends. It depends on who your audience is. It depends what the outcome of your post is. I like to say the goal. What do you want your audience to think, feel, or do, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you can't do all three in the same one.
It's also a trap that people can fall into. If I was to say to you that you should be posting every second day, if you have nothing valuable to post, what are you going to write? You're going to write fluff.
ChatGPT stuff.
Yeah. It's not going to provide value to anybody.
Yeah.
So my own LinkedIn, I post when I've got something to post.
Yeah.
It is what it is. If you've got a cycle set up for your content that does newsletters and updates your website, then you would use that to update your socials. And then whenever you have personally got something to say, you would say it. It's kind of simple.
Yeah, not so much about when or how often, but what.
Quality over quantity, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then as far as where goes, it's the age-old answer of, well, where's your audience? Where do they live?
And where is MasterJack's audience?
That's difficult. Our audience is on all of them. But we have the resources to be able to manage all of those channels. I think the only one that we're not on is Pinterest and TikTok. Otherwise, we're there. You're
going to be doing some TikTok videos, Lisa.
Maybe.
I would say...
if things get desperate.
I think Facebook and LinkedIn are the easy ones.
Sure.
I think Instagram requires more art, creative. Sure. TikTok is video heavy, so you've got to have the time to put into it. Yeah, it's a hard one. What's the goal? Come back to that. Because if the goal is just to build a presence, pick one, do that. If it gets really good, pick another one.
Yeah, test it out.
Yeah.
If it's not working, then try something different.
Yeah. I will say that this year has seen a bit of a drop in business, shall we say, and a lot of people are affected, laying people off, closing down, different horror stories. I would say that newsletters is the one that you should keep, because it keeps you in touch with your audience, your database that you own, and they will talk to people in their networks. So for me, newsletters is the one that keeps your business going.
Look, I totally agree. I've been a big fan of email. I'm sorry, I think I do it myself, but there's newsletters and then there's content, right? How do you have your audience be engaged? Because it's, you see so many people, it's almost now a turn off. So sign up, subscribe to our newsletter at the bottom of website page, and it's like, nope. So, you know, are you a advocate for suggesting to people what is in the newsletter? This is what you can expect. It's a bit like a video on a landing page. This is what you can get if you put your email address in. This is what, you know, this is the promise.
Yep. It's going to come down to who's your audience and what's your goal. I think that sharing the content on socials, if that can appear in somebody's scroll feed, then they'll go, oh, this is good, and then they will dive for more, where they will hopefully end up at the subscribe to our newsletter, and they will think it's valuable because they got something out of it.
Sure. What is a good newsletter for one of your clients? Have you got maybe a story about a particular client that you've solved with the use of a newsletter?
Yes, actually. This particular client decided to can their socials because the newsletter was working so well.
Wow.
Yeah. So they have seen the newsletter as a tool for looking after their clients. So whenever their clients have questions, queries, something's changed in the market, they can address it in the newsletter, provide that value, provide different perspectives on their subject matter. And then we have a tool where you can actually see who's clicked on what, which is a little bit Big Brother-ish. But what that means for this client is that they can see 10 people have clicked on this article. Maybe we'll give those 10 people, we'll just give them a follow-up call in a week or two just to touch base, and suddenly that turns into more work for them. So by nurturing, they're also able to cross-sell.
Wow. And what sort of client is this? To give us a snapshot of this particular client?
Yeah, mortgage broker.
Wow.
Yep. Because not only do you only get a mortgage every now and then, but then you've got the whole, should I fix? Should I float? What should I do? What is the market doing? How do I save as much money as possible? How do I get out of debt as fast as possible?
And you know, one of your questions here is where you talk about, you know, for people who are doing it themselves, which is interesting, because I'm doing my email newsletter myself, and you've just given insight around, you have a tool within your email distribution software to be able, what other tools are available to you that are perhaps people are not aware of?
Cool. There's do your keyword research. What would someone type into Google to find the answer, the solution that you're providing? There's one called Moz, which gives you so many free trials where you can put in, well, I'm talking about mortgages, and it will come up with different keywords as well as questions that people might type in. So that's a great one for figuring out what to write. There's all kinds of newsletter software, and they all have their different pros and cons. The one that I would, I guess, kind of warn about would be MailChimp, because it's great if you're using personal email addresses. If you're using a corporate email address, like Lisa at MasterJack, MasterJack would be the corporate version, not a Hotmail, Gmail, any of the other ones. They're going to have a server. And because MailChimp is put out there as a free tool, it could be considered spam and therefore might not quite get through that server. So if your client database has got personal email addresses, by all means, use the free MailChimp software.
So what, can you give us an example of what maybe 3 business-related email software distribution systems are?
Yes, actually, I mean, if you jump onto the MasterJack blog, we've actually recently done an article that lists, I think, 8 different types of newsletter software, their pros and cons and costs, and which one you might want to choose to use for your business for whatever your goal is. We choose to use Vision 6, which I think is amazing.
So here you are. You really are about helping people write better content.
Yes.
Even though you have it, you'd like to grow your team and and do it for people.
I think
where does that philosophy come from?
The problem we will always answer is pain of time.
Of
People don't have time to do these things.
But where does your philosophy to help people write better content come from? Where's that desire come from?
It's part of the giver's gain thing. The give, it'll come back. If I help somebody write their newsletter and they've got all these tips and tricks, they're going to go, oh my goodness, MasterJack is actually pretty good at this stuff. I want all of their new learnings to be involved in my stuff. Because everything that I'm sharing with you is not new to us. We've been doing that for a long time.
She is a master Lisa, isn't she? She is a master Lisa. Would you like to answer this question, Lucy? You could give this with us. This one here.
Do you have any tips for businesses doing their own content?
Yeah, don't drop the ball. If you're going to do it yourself, no problems. I think there's 12 articles on the MasterJack website, do-it-yourself series, which newsletter software to use, how to create a pillar cluster, what platform to be on. It's all on there. The thing is, if you start out with a good intention and then you drop off, and you're, that's right, I've got to do the newsletter, that dropping the ball will actually make, when the email finally arrives again, make the reader go, it might mean that dropping the ball means you don't respond to inquiries that have come from the newsletter because suddenly you're busy. I think a lot of businesses, especially single working, self-employed type businesses, will do the feast or famine cycle, and then they'll run out of work. Oh, I should do a newsletter to try and pick up some more business. Oh, I should quickly post onto social media and hope something comes through. I would definitely advise, do not drop the ball. Set up a routine that you can stick with no matter how quiet or busy you are.
Yeah, okay.
It's a bit like doing a podcast. You know, I think when we sat down in this very room and I delivered those stats that 90% of podcasts don't make it to episode 3, and you're in the top 1% of podcasts if you reach episode 22, I think it was.
Yes.
And here you are at 32. So it is about consistency, but that's kind of life, right, isn't it?
Yep.
And what mistakes have businesses or do businesses make in their content marketing?
Other than dropping the ball, I would say using jargon. Jargon's a big one. We're very anti-jargon at MasterJack. If you look at our website, if there's a word that is marketing jargon, you'll see that it's a different colour. You can click on that and our little mascot Jack will pop up and explain what that word means.
I need to go to the masterjack.co.nz website.
That's pretty cool. Jargon is a big killer. When you're explaining the problem that you solve and you use, like if a mortgage broker said triple CFA, of course, to them, they know exactly what that means. And anybody who's in the finance industry will know what that means. A first-time home buyer might not know what that means.
Yeah.
So just
switch off.
Explain yourself. Keep it at a language that people will be able to understand easily.
Why should people work with MasterJack?
Why?
Why?
Maybe I've told a story that you've connected with.
Well, I work with MasterJack, right?
Yes.
And you do some content for me, and I love how you've simplified my sometimes ADHD brain and been able to structure it. And you know, I had people reaching out to me. Mine is more social media content, but just a particular, what do you call it? A cluster?
Yes.
Yeah,
Particular pillar.
A pillar.
Yes.
Because you know, I'm quite good at the emotional stuff, but not so good at the functional,
It's in there. You just don't articulate it. So we've just pulled that from you.
Yeah. And you've done that very well.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to say on your episode of On Boxes and Briefs?
I would say if you want to see what value means in a newsletter and you do have an interest in content marketing, something like that, subscribe to the MasterJack one because we're constantly giving away value. That's our main driver of that newsletter. So I'm sure you'll get something from it.
Good call to action. If people don't know where to find you, they can find you on the Boxes and Briefs podcast.
They can.
Are you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I am. Lisa Garrud, Garrud.
But really, the origin or heritage of it is Garrud, isn't it? It is.
It's French.
It is.
Ha ha ha.
Ha ha ha.
I had my daughter convinced for a long time that we were from a long line of pirates because you spell it with Garrr.
That's your storytelling.
You were telling her that story when she was growing up. I'm a Garrud. Thank you for being a guest on your podcast.
Thank you
Lisa.
for flipping the tables there, John. I love it.
You're more than welcome. Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Sheppard, the problem solvers in business.